If you were born between 1987 and about 1993, Halo occupies a special place in your heart, right? Getting four of your friends over, playing Halo on multiplayer on your Xbox, are memories we all share. Guys, today I'm checking out Halo Wars 2, the movie, all cutscenes. Let's get into it. For the record, I have never played Halo Wars, and in fact, the last Halo I played was like Halo 2. Okay, one of the things that's always kind of weird about space physics is that things behave in ways that don't make a ton of sense. I'm curious if that happens in this film.
Captain, wake up. Something has happened. The Spirit of Fire is in a situation I could not anticipate.
Okay, I know in Halo lore, AIs have a little bit more fleshed out personality. They're a little more person-like. This is sort of one of the debates about an AI. Nobody really knows how they would really look, right? Look at a lot of people think, oh, AIs would naturally be, say, brilliant at math or able to do calculations in an instant. But look at how many, as human beings, look at how many biological processes govern our bodies that our brains have no concept of, right? You could have an AI built on super advanced algorithms, and maybe, like us, it would be like a child, you know? We really don't know.
I'm certain Professor Anders would enjoy that little admission. So let's keep it between us, shall we? We've been adrift for just over 28 years. I've made quite a few repairs while you were sleeping. So ship systems are 100%. Cryo worked well, and med stats on all remaining crew are green. As for
all right, shout out to the fact that even in a century from now, bright, reflective vests, hard hats, and ear protection are essential. That actually kind of makes sense, because obviously, human eye, you want to see stuff, and when you have heavy equipment moving around, you want to make sure you can get a visual on everyone. This is actually one of the biggest controversies, not one of the biggest, but one of the bigger controversies in the Navy was when the Navy sort of got caught up in the hype around digital uniforms. They said, we want digital uniforms too, and they went and developed, it's called like the Seaman Battle Uniform or something really, honestly, kind of cringe. But the thing that was so stupid about it was that it was blue. But you have to think, if you're the crew of a warship, falling overboard is the most dangerous thing that can happen to you. So why would you make your uniforms the color of water? Right? That's why they all wear brightly colored vests, but why would you not just make their uniform be brightly colored?
For me, well, regulations are clear about final dispensation at the end of an AI's 7-year lifespan. I took care of my own arrangements rather than wake you. I didn't want to... Well, I hope you can forgive this final breach of protocol. It was a pleasure and an honor to serve with you, sir. Do look after everyone for me, would you? Goodbye, Captain. Serena out.
I just want to point out, everyone on this ship is extremely fit. Maybe that's just what happens when you're in cryostasis. They're just like, listen, we're not gonna be giving you any extra food, right? You're just gonna come out, every one of you looking lean. Though, one of the biggest problems in present day is when you have a human being who is still, for a long period of time, right, metabolically, their body starts to waste away, right? The old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it, is really true in terms of fitness. If you look at some of the people who have long hospital stays, say as a result of, the big C-19, a lot of them say they have lost a ton of muscle mass, a ton of cardiovascular fitness, right? and have a long, long road to recovery. And that's what happens to the human body when it just sort of stays still for a long period of time. It's not something that was ever meant to happen. Even among people who are in, say, long-term comas, one of their biggest dangers is actually getting infections from bed sores, because they'll develop sores just from sitting on the bed for so long. So to solve that problem, to develop a cryostasis that could last years is a huge question. So I don't know. I think Halo Wars was like a space combat game? So, if this ship was adrift for 28 years, right, if we use our own time, this is the equivalent of a ship from about 1992, so from about Desert Storm, sort of re-emerging onto the battle space. So maybe not finding itself with no battlefield role, but definitely in bad need of an upgrade.
I'll need to get down there. Immediately, of course.
Good morning to you too, Professor.
I'm sorry, Captain. It's good to see you too. But just look at it.
What is it? And where are we?
Okay, only 2 people on the bridge is a little weird. I don't know. I assume we're starting in... If the captain doesn't even know where he is, the bridge would probably be a flurry of activity. A captain needs to have total situational awareness about their ship. And so he would want to know, first off, how many of the crew is still alive. Not just the estimate from the recording of the AI, but an actual layout. Who has lingering medical issues and is off duty? What damage exactly did the ship sustain? Right, 100% can mean a lot of things. I know cars that are 100% operational that are no more than one bad pothole away from falling apart. Right. You also want to know tactically, what's the situation? Where's the nearest friendly force? These are all things that a captain would ask within the first probably 24 hours or 12 hours of being awake. And their staff would be expected to find those answers as fast as possible.
No idea. Our astronavigation system can't pinpoint a location. We're not on the map anymore.
That is a very casual way of saying we are effed.
We didn't drift out of the galaxy in 28 years, Professor. Since records show we arrived via slip space less than an hour ago.
Our slip space drive is gone. However we got here, it wasn't us who initiated the trip. Something down there.
Okay, they went with the Minority Report holographs. That's kind of cool. That's one of those things I would really like to see. Honestly, I think this sounds a little silly. As an office worker who has 2 screens and recently got turned on to somebody who's operating with 5 screens, I wonder if in the future a VR world, right, where you put on the VR glasses and you have as many screens as you need. You can take, grab, place. You want to see that spreadsheet, bring it down. You want to see this program, that program, right? You got your Discord going. You can just look and see it. That, to me, is the future of connectivity. Going to make for some really weird looking office environments, but it would be really cool to be able to do something like that in virtual reality. Technology that is much more proximate than what we have now, than what we're seeing here.
Must have opened the portal from this end and pulled us in.
Captain Cutter, sir, we received a signal from the surface. It's UNSC.
Signal to my location, Lieutenant. Let's hear what they have to say.
I'm sorry, I can't play it for you, sir. The message has an encryption scheme we haven't seen before.
Security measures would advance without us. But it is coming through on a UNSC frequency.
So it's not just security measures being advanced, right? At least modern cryptography, there's actually a key, right? Same thing as always, a decryption key, but it's actually a software algorithm that you have to load into communications devices, right? And you have to do it every, I think when I was deployed, it was every 24 or 48 hours. And so maybe not quite, maybe like every 7 days, but it was very frequent. And the concern is that your devices, your communication devices would constantly, right, if they were behind on fill, would just, their cryptographic fill, they would just lose functionality, which was great. It meant the enemy, if they captured them, could only hear your communications for max, a couple of hours. And if you knew you lost, say, a radio, you would just order an emergency change in fill, and you would just take the cryptographic fill from next week and move it up and do it that day. Though it would be theater wide, so you'd probably piss somebody off. But the point is that nothing is alarming by saying that you receive encrypted signals. Again, if you traveled 2 weeks into the future, into the past, in Afghanistan, you would be stuck with an unencryptable message.
This is good. When we left, the war wasn't going well. The signal means the UNSC is still fighting, or maybe we even won. What's the source of the transmission?
We don't have the surface details yet, sir. Something down there is blocking our scans, and without Serena... But we do have a rough location. Should be simple enough to triangulate once we pick up the signal from the ground.
I don't know why. Is her rank Professor? She seems to be functioning like an XO, but again, this is something that you would never have, especially if you relied on AI to manage your shipboard systems, right? Without that AI present, you would absolutely need to have your staff feeding you this information. You can't have just one person, no matter how smart they are, see the whole picture. It's easy for two people to get tunnel vision, to get groupthink, to not question each other's assumptions, and a good staff is going to do all that, right? For example, a good staff member might come in and say, hey, sir, actually, is it possible that's an automated distress beacon and there's nothing down there? Is it possible that it's a trap and that we're actually in enemy territory trying to lure us in, right? You have to ask these questions. That's what a good staff member does. They ask the questions that other people may not see, right? Using their specific area of expertise. When you have two people, you can see they're thinking the exact same way, and that's a liability as much as it's an asset.
Cutter to Jerome.
Reporting, Captain.
Prep Spartan Red Team and a small recon squad. Professor Anders will send you the coordinates. Find out who's sending that signal. Be on the ground within the hour. Travel light.
Roger that, Captain. Recon only.
28 years, Professor. Let's see what kind of galaxy we woke up to.
Pile the table, 10 o'clock.
Spartans, thank God. We have to get out of here.
Identify.
Isabel, UNSC Logistics, Arc Research Outpost.
Isabel, where are the survivors? What's the strength of the Covenant force here?
Covenant? No, why would... Listen, you're in incredible danger.
What was that?
It's him.
You're coming with us.
just going to point this out that, well, a couple of things. One, not sure what their security situation is like. I understand when people say travel light, recon team, etc., but you should never travel lighter than you can protect yourself. And that usually means securing both the outside perimeter and then like conducting reconnaissance of the inside, right? Because you have to have outer and inner security. You don't want to go in somewhere only to have your entrances blocked off by an opposing force. So I think they obviously traveled more than a little light, too light, in fact. Second, you want to take your time when you're clearing these sort of buildings. And if someone warns you to get out of there, you may want to get out of there, right? You don't want to hurry through these sort of things. Again, you notice how she was trying to share a lot of information, didn't really share all of it. They didn't listen to all of it. And if they were in a hurry, they should have left immediately. But it said they cut her off and just kept pushing forward into the facility, all of which is not a great call. Not to say, I mean, they're animated characters, right? They're not real. Nobody deserves anything. But that said, slow and steady when it comes to this sort of room clearing or clearing any sort of enclosed space like this.
As I suspected. Nothing but a man.
Red Team Leader, this is Recon 1. You have multiple hostiles approaching your location.
Alice. We're leaving.
Little demon.
Command, this is Red Team. We have a Spartan casualty.
Hunt them down.
Immediate evac requested.
Find out where they came from.
Douglas, stay with me.
And bring me back anything
Douglas!
useful.
Okay, so, right, their casualty evacuation actually looked pretty good for 3 people. You had somebody dragging the casualty. Casualty drag is pretty standard. In fact, even modern military equipment will have a handle right here that you can grab on either the body armor or the backpack. And so you can grab and do a drag just like you saw there. You also, of course, have that person dragging, providing forward security. Someone else is providing rear security and is on comms. That's about as good as you can hope for. Again, like we talked about, when they're like multiple hostiles closing on your location, that's why you have perimeter security, right? So you can buy yourself a little extra time. You also don't need to request, well, it depends. You may need to request a medevac, right, from a location that you didn't think you were going to have to, but you should always have that pre-planned, and maybe they did. But you always want to have a set, especially on a reconnaissance mission. You say we're going to go here, here, and here, and then we are going to exfil at this location. Usually you want to exfil at a different location than you entered if you can at all get away with it, right? Because you don't want to have an enemy waiting for you at your infill route, believing they can catch you on exfil.
Come on!
Do we have a plan?
We do. You're over Spirit of Fire action.
Cutter here. Status.
Sir.
Oh, that's good. You notice he referred to him as Spirit of Fire Actual. That's like sort of correct, right? Normally, I don't know if you would... Okay, I don't know about naval protocol, and I definitely don't know about Space Navy protocol. But in the military, you will have call signs that are usually separate from... that are a little more brief than your full-length call sign. So, for example... my battalion was actually the Task Force Spartan. So our battalion commander their call sign was Spartan 6, but if you called Spartan 6 on the radio, you would probably get their radio telephone operator, their RTO. If you wanted to talk to the actual battalion commander, usually that's because you need a battalion commander level authorization or a battalion commander level decision. You would say, you know, you would give your call sign, so I'd be like Roughneck 16, Spartan 6 actual, over. You know, or whatever, and then they would dial in and they would know that you have to talk to the actual commander. So this makes sense, right? There you go. Here you go. You can see here. He's going to request a danger close airstrike, something that is absolutely something that needs to be authorized by the operational commander. Again, a Spirit of Fire actual is a little clunky. I think if it was in the military, they would become Fire actual.
Requesting danger.
Or probably not Fire actual, because fire is something you would request. Right, you also have to be careful to not have a call sign that's also something else in like another military doctrinal term. So fire actual would be really confusing, right? Because they will think, is this person asking for a fire mission, or are they trying to raise fire actual? So instead, it would be probably Spirit. You would call Spirit actual.
Close. On our location. Trailing north. Commence 5 seconds.
Interesting plan.
Understood. Archer missiles inbound.
That's usually would want to be accompanied by a time hack. Inbound to your location, 30 seconds. You may also, though sometimes there's a standard protocol. So for example, what is it? You get a call, if you call artillery fire, you call rounds out, or you will request fire mission. You'll give them the grid. You'll tell them the disposition of the target. And if they need danger close authorization, you'll provide it. And then they'll say, I think they say rounds out to indicate that they're fired. And then they'll give you one other command to tell you that the rounds are 30 seconds out, or like 10 seconds out or something, so that you can put eyes on target. And if you need to get to cover, you will. I'm blanking right now on what exactly that final heads up is. Let me know in the comments if somebody's a fire support guy. Yeah, let me know, what is the command following rounds out that tells you that the rounds are about to impact.
Alice is MIA. She'll stay silent down there until she has a good shot at getting back to us.
Sir? Isabel, this is Captain Cutter.
I know who you are. James Cutter. Captain of the Spirit of Fire. You're supposed to be lost with all hands.
Not so lost, it seems. What happened down there? I need to know what we're up against. Isabel? Isabel, report.
Sir. 5 months ago, the portal from the Ark to Earth shut down without warning. A month later, he arrived.
He?
See, now the bridge is more realistic. See how there's a bunch of staff continuously working to get things operational and to, stay abreast of all the various systems that have to function in order to make that ship work.
The Brute. Their leader. His name is Atriox. During the war, the Covenant used his clan as expendable muscle. Told them dying in battle would speed their holy journey. 40 at a time, they carelessly sent them in. 40 to break the front lines. 40 to die for beliefs not their own.
Man, these AI have a high level of melodrama, which I know in the lore, right? The AI get a little more emotionally unstable as time goes on, but you know, man, the level of melodrama is just. If we design an AI that's that needy and emotional, I don't know, man. I think I'll stick to human beings.
None never returned. Until he did. And so battle by battle, war by war, 39 brothers at a time, Atriox was born. With every victory, his legend and his hatred of the Covenant grew. Eventually, both were impossible to conceal. And they tried to banish him.
Da 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 da.
And everything we know about the Covenant's 1,000-year history. Atriox was the first to defy the Covenant and survive. And his defiance inspired others.
This is actually a real thing and a real problem for dictatorships, right? When you have authoritarian regimes, the mere existence of people that operate outside of your authority is a threat precisely because it empowers every other group that you may have angered, irritated, or pissed off, right? And so there's a couple of ways to solve this, right? The most brutal of which is, of course, to kill off your potential, not even just rivals, right? That aren't powerful enough to overthrow your regime, but are powerful enough to gain deterrence, i.e., reconquering them would be too costly to be worthwhile. Good example of this is the Chechen forces in 90s Russia, right? That Russia could defeat the Chechens, but their resistance was strong enough to a point where the Russians found it too costly to take back Chechnya, right? And so when you have something like this, obviously you can do it the Chechnya way, the Putin way, which is to crush them entirely, right? And this is a costly, and it sometimes backfires, right? The press and people's opinion can be really pretty poor. And that sounds like what they were doing here. The Covenant probably realized that this particular group has a strong insular culture, has a hard time integrating with the rest of the Covenant belief system, and so therefore they have to be exterminated. And by putting them in the front lines and making sure that they never develop the military might necessary to stage an effective rebellion or resistance is actually a common strategic choice. The other option, of course, is to not circumvent, but to basically replace the leadership structure to one that is amenable to you. You see the CCP tries this with Tibet, where they are both ban and try to suppress the existence of the actual Dalai Lama, and the Chinese Communist Party has their own Dalai Lama who is loyal entirely to the CCP, and they want Tibetans to believe that that is the actual sacred figure who is their leader, right? Because if you co-opt that leadership, then that resistance doesn't really become a resistance. It becomes just a part of your confederation. You see this also, again, with Putin as he got more savvy, he realized he didn't need to fight the Chechens and the Dagestanis and other sort of provinces, other sort of parts of Russia that never really integrated with the main body, with the main dominant Russian culture. And he installed friendly mini dictators in these regions who ensure that they never oppose Putin directly. And this is a better strategy, right? And so obviously the Covenant strategy has backfired. This person who would have been better suited as a sort of Covenant-friendly leader of whatever these people are called, would have been a better strategy than to try to exterminate them. And now they're paying the price. It's also kind of a classic story. We see this also in Rome, actually, quite literally. The Roman military would not just integrate, peoples, Germanic peoples, Arab peoples, North Africans, into the legion. That had been going on for hundreds of years. But at some point, they started actually trying to wholesale purchase entire armies. They would hire an entire army of, say, the Visigoths or the Huns to fight on behalf of Rome, and simply use money and wealth as a bribe to get not just the soldiers, but more importantly, the leadership of these barbarian tribes to sort of fight on behalf of Rome. But the problem is that you made your enemies both far wealthier and you made them far more powerful by militarily allowing them to train, organize, gain combat experience, and gain a lot of resources, right? So that Rome, by thinking it was helping by buying off these sort of other non-Roman militaries, actually created their own problem. And that could be what we're seeing here, right? The Covenant brings in this potent military force, says, hey, it's better to have them sort of in the tent pissing out. And as a result, though, they eventually become too powerful, too well-armed, and too organized to the point where they can effectively stand up to the Covenant.
Atriox and his Banished raided Covenant resources, cutting a swath across the galaxy, growing in strength with each attack, gathering killers and mercenaries to his side. The Covenant had two targets in those years: humanity and Atriox. They almost got us, but Atriox, they never came close. The whole damn Covenant couldn't contain him at the height of their power. That's what you're up against. And all you've got is one old ship and half a crew to staff her? We need to run as far and as fast as we can.
We are just one ship. And an old one at that. But here we are. 30 years past what anyone could ask of us. Our war is gone. The lives we had are gone.
Everybody stands up, man. Okay, all right, we'll let him finish this and I'll weigh in.
But moved on. And now, all that we may have left are those standing beside us. And the duty that defines us. Battle after battle, fighting side by side. Together. Where you see half a crew, Isabel, I see family. Courage. And 1,000 heroes who swore to fight their way through hell before they'd ever turn their backs and run. And where you see one old ship, I see home. And that is always worth fighting for.
Okay, so I'm going to point this out. That captain realized that he was in a tight spot. That melodramatic AI, right, sounded like the AI was pretty depressed, and one of the things that actually happens when a human being it has depression, right, is that they do what's called catastrophizing. And this is looking at scenarios and only seeing the worst possible outcomes. right? Only seeing the ways in which things can go badly. Problems look bigger, they look more insurmountable, and the worst case scenario feels a lot larger. It feels like it can block out all the other panoply of scenarios, from the mediocre to the kind of bad to the downright good. And so when you have this melodramatic AI not only share that perspective, but do so highly dramatically, and then do it in front of your staff, you have to do something to push back on that mentality, right? And so sometimes that's done through reassurance, right? Officers that go, listen, I understand what happened at your base was very scary, and it clearly affected you deeply. I need to know, what are the numbers here, right? Because sometimes, like you said, you break it down, you look at it mathematically, and the situation looks a lot less imposing when you talk about the actual facts on the ground, right? The other option is what he chose, which is to try to push back with a melodramatic, motivating speech. Different officers, different styles of leadership.
If we don't stop Atriox now, we leave the galaxy at the mercy of a monster.
No, that's stupid. You want to leave. You want to leave, and you want to take all the intel that you've gathered, and you want to get back to the main body of your force and share that intelligence as much as humanly possible, right? Again, humanity can't prepare for this powerful invader without knowing they exist. So just having the knowledge of this force's existence is going to be of far greater value than any one ship could have.
So no, Isabel. We won't be running anywhere today.
Sir, yes, sir.
Johnson, get those guns back inside.
Multiple breaches in Sector 12. Jennings, get those hatches closed.
Where are we on that hull breach in Sector 17?
ETA 60 seconds. Starboard guns, down.
Hard to do my best work like this. Can't we fight back?
Carrier just released more banshees.
Are we fighting back?
We are, Professor. Let me handle that. You just give me the update on the arc.
Starboard guns are down. Factory Module 3 has internal fires.
Poked the nest, didn't we?
We did. Evacuate and vent. How long can we keep this up?
Not long. We're losing too many guns. At this rate, it'll be over soon.
I think I found a way to get help. You can reopen our portal?
No. We're going to Mega Halo.
What?
I've discovered the Ark keeps an almost finished ring in its central forges at all times. It's an emergency replacement in case one of the other rings breaks down.
Rings. You must mean galaxy-destroying super weapons, right?
Why they have all this really valuable intel in some rando AI is always beyond me.
Well, on that front, I figured out how to disable the ring's firing mechanism. We can only launch it to one of the locations of the original rings, however.
Isabel, you said the Master Chief first found a ring near enough to reach. That would make it within range of a comms beacon. It could work. Anders, how long do you need?
12 hours, if my calculations are correct.
We don't have 12 hours, Professor. We might not have 12 minutes. Just can't beat that right now.
I can. I'm gonna need a little help, though.
Explain.
These are, okay, so every time you have somebody who has this miraculous solution to a problem, in fiction it's called a deus ex machina, right? It's where you just randomly go, oh, we can gee whiz this solution out of nowhere, right? And usually it's kind of a trope of hacky writing. The fact that they just had a scene where they threw two rando deus ex machina solutions at us is sort of a little bit of a hacky writing move. Yeah, that's it. That's my criticism. those things always bother me. If you want to do it well, what you do is provide all the components of the solution to the problem. You lay them out for the viewer or for the reader before you spring them, so that the reader and the characters realize at almost the same time the solution, right? So, you know, what you would do is, you know, you would weigh in that it's an arc, you'd reveal that it's almost like complete or whatever. You wouldn't just have her reveal this key information to the viewer through a monologue, right? You would discover it on the course of the mission. And then same thing with whatever her secret sauce is, right? You'd actually find that out as you played through the game. And maybe you do, but it doesn't seem like it.
Well, for starters, I need her down there with me.
Isabel?
Sorry, sir. I've been on the Ark a while. After recent battle reports, you should have figured out that there are rules around here. I intend to break one. A big one. We'll need to split ground forces between these two locations to buy me some time.
You're taking control of ground forces now? Buy you time for what?
That ship brought these monsters. Killed everyone I was supposed to protect.
So much melodrama, guys. I can't handle it, to be honest.
Now it wants to do the same to you. I won't let that happen.
That's not the same thing as a plan.
It's time to show them what power really means around here.
Not a plan. Okay, I understand the melodrama, but if you come up with a plan, you actually have to share it with someone so that if something happens to you, someone else can take up the mantle and finish the job. Or if you have to improvise, if no one else understands the big picture, they can't discern how to work around flaws in their own like subcomponent missions. Again, if you are the ground forces and you're told, go down to this location and defend it, do you defend it to the last man? Well, no, it's a delaying mission. So if your mission is delay as long as possible, then you'll know that instead of a valiant last stand, a fighting retreat will actually serve you much better. These are the sort of things that are why you have to communicate the totality of the plan. Especially if you know what you're trying to delay them from reaching, you could actually even fight a bounding retreat in a different direction.
No, we've just never had Spartan ringside seats before.
Let's get to work. Our entrance wasn't exactly subtle.
Okay. I just need to find their... Got it. Troops below are clear. I'm starting now. Promise you won't leave without me.
Yeah, I appreciate the Tron-style cyberspace sequence. This is what your computer does when you search for a file. Me when I have to update Fallout 4. Yeah, so just heads up, I'm gonna... Well, never mind, we'll keep going. I'm just surprised we're only at 18 minutes of this 27-minute video.
Isabel, what do we do, Isabel?
Why does every sci-fi trope since like 2005 5 have a super weapon. Like, why is it always a super weapon? I don't know what to tell you. I mean, they think the drone warfare is going to be like the future, and this idea of like drone swarms. There's even talk about sort of satellite drones that are even now sort of attacking and counterattacking each other in space, right? That there's a sort of space or satellite-based Cold War going on. You can see it's been in the press recently. The U.S. has sort of stated that China and Russia have been using satellites to sort of attack U.S. satellite capabilities. So this is, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to talk about what happens when you have these big power differentials in terms of military capabilities, right? You can see that this Atriox or whatever, he has built a conventional military power that is absolutely powerful using the tools of 30 years prior, right? So it looks like the tools of this like old style war a generation ago are powerful navies, lots and lots of these drone fighter aircraft, and a powerful ground force. But when you don't have those things, and this is true throughout history, when your rival, your military rival, is a conventionally unassailable, right, impossibly strong, often you have to innovate. You have to go, okay, what are the dimensions that are underlying your opponent that make them tick, right? What are the things that you can cripple or damage, or where the areas you can fight them where their conventional power doesn't help them? And the problem is, if you are a big conventional military, right, or I say conventional, I just mean a military that would win like the last global conflict decisively, the last major conflict decisively, right? You're built for the last war. Is that often you have these people in charge of that military that have a lot of myopia, right? They really focus on the old school way of doing things, right? The way that they fought, the sort of war that they understand, and they aren't really open to doing things a different way, especially when you're big and you're well funded. Again, I think about the US and things like their aircraft carrier groups, right? We have 12 multi-billion-dollar aircraft carriers, but at the end of the day, they're used for this squishy concept of power projection that basically just says they're a big ship that looks powerful, and that somehow that's supposed to achieve these powerful military effects. But it's not necessarily clear on what an aircraft carrier can bring to the fight that, say, a standard ground-based airbase can. And but that is sort of the US's myopic way of thinking, that aircraft carriers are how naval battles are fought. We have a lot of aircraft carriers, therefore we're the best Navy. But there hasn't been an aircraft carrier battle since World War II. So certainly if World War II was to break out again for some reason, the US would win decisively. But what will the next war look like? It may not involve aircraft carriers at all, or it may be aircraft carriers that can never use the full power because they're countered by something silly like a drone swarm or a precision missile. So this is the sort of way you think about when you have to take on a conventionally powerful army, is you look at the things that are sort of liabilities. In this case, it looks like she's attacking the network that allowed those drones to operate. Not clear. I don't know enough about the franchise to understand fully what's going on here. So point this out, that in space, without the burden of friction, you could get a drone swarm going fast. Incredibly fast. Again, they have no air resistance. So if you could gain even rudimentary control of them and literally just program the command to accelerate as fast as possible, burn all of their fuel, and charge at their own ship, then you could deal an almost eye-watering amount of damage.
Isabel, it's done. Time to go home.
Whoa. You've been busy?
Not as busy as you.
The grav lift. What do we do?
You hold on.
Wait, what? Wait a minute!
I think you'd accelerate a little slower, right? When you're that far away from the surface of a planet. It would feel a lot more like floating, I think.
One Spartan. Yes, and the AI. We still don't know how she accessed how many of your men survived. Enough to honor our contract. But how? Get everyone you can on that ring. Take it from the humans. Prove you are still worth your price.
We've discussed this, and the irony, of course, is when you start as the insurgency, the up-and-coming force taking on the big empire. I'm thinking like the Visigoths relative to the barbarians. And once you become big enough, you start to find the incentives are aligned, and you start to use that big guy playbook on your own. As you can see, he himself has gone and contracted someone else to fight on his behalf, right? A very feudalism type system that, of course, you know, down the line, the Visigoths or all the barbarian forces eventually turned to. Okay, in the game, did they get like reinforcements? This is a tremendously large ground fleet for someone who is, you know, if you have 1,000 crew members on your ships, your marine unit contingent, your like ground force contingent is going to be like 100 would be a lot. And I think that's who we just saw in this shot.
Professor, it's now or never. Show us what you got.
The high drama holographs, like, okay, you can just do a regular size holograph, guys. All right, well, that was weird. Yeah. Destroying a whole area is what's called an area weapon. That's when you send less of a, bullet with someone's name on it, and a little bit more of a to whom it may concern type of message. Obviously, we can't lift the ground up and throw it at people, but we do have what are called MLRS, or multiple rocket launch systems, and those things can produce a similar effect. As we used to say, destroy a whole grid square. Not exactly relevant on the modern battlefields of Afghanistan and Iraq, but a good tool to have in your arsenal just the same.
Captain, it's done. Professor Anders, we are on our way. Get to the rendezvous.
With all due respect, Spartan, I don't believe that's an option any longer.
Professor Anders, there must be some way.
Don't worry, Captain. As soon as I'm back to the Sol system, I'll get that beacon out. It should only be a few weeks.
Professor!
Because I can figure out how to get back to you.
Captain?
The other teams are clear?
Yes, sir. ETA to the Spirit of Fire is 5 minutes.
Bring up the map. We have a lot of work to do until she gets back.
Aye, Captain.
Again, just want to point this out. You're outnumbered, right? Obviously, someone seems to have gotten away and with the intelligence to alert the main body of humanity, I guess. And stalling for time when you are the smaller force and you have a larger force in reserve that just needs time, this is a valid strategy. This is an excellent strategic choice. Right, so you don't have to go toe to toe. You just need to stall. Stall for time is completely a strategic choice that is excellent. Now, what you have to remember that you can do conventionally, the way you're trained to do this, is that enemies have a combat formation, right? So if you wanted to, say, transport your entire military, you would have to get transports, assign transports, fuel them, right? Have all of your people file neatly into transports, et cetera, right? But it's vulnerable. They're vulnerable when they do it. Instead, you have a combat deployment, and those combat formations tend to take time, and they're very, very different, right? So what you do is you continually harass the enemy whenever you see them trying to form into a movement formation, right? And prepare for fast, rapid movement, and you hit them, forcing them to stop and go into a combat posture. They go into a combat posture, and then, right, you withdraw, you see them start to reform, prepare for transit, and then you hit them shortly thereafter. And the idea is that if you mix it up and you get the timing right, then you will be able to delay the enemy for sometimes several times longer than it would normally take them to perform that same maneuver.
What's happening? Why did we drop out of slip space?
I'm going to point this out. If there's an essential component of a mission, one person is, you should never, ever have an absolutely essential function done by one person. Reason is people get, it never happens in movies, but in the real world, people become incapacitated for all sorts of dumb reasons. What happens if she literally got food poisoning from eating a bad ration? Sounds ridiculous, but that's a thing that really happens to people, right? And if that's the only person who's executing this essential function and there's no one to help them out, then literally you could have your mission essential person die of something preposterous like dehydration because there was no one to start an IV, right? Or, I mean, take your pick. I once had a soldier have to come off mission because of a spider bite. It looked really bad. We didn't really want to find out. So literally we rerouted an entire combat patrol to drop them off, pick up another soldier, and get back on mission. But those are the things you can do when you have, you know, more than one person performing these essential functions, is that you can always have sort of resilience in your combat system.
Good job, Ellen. We may have been safer on the Ark.
Dun, dun. Coming next time. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this look deep into Halo Wars 2. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. I am not like a naval warfare expert by any means, but I really feel like there's a lot of cool insights about things this sort of game thought about correctly and things this game kind of thought about, I don't know, and none of it's incorrect, right? It's a fantasy world in which there's 15 different aliens fighting in space, right? So, you know, there could be a reason for every one of my criticisms. But this was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed it, let me know if there's other Halo content you want to see. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.